Welcome to the Property Investing Roadmap podcast. I'm your host, Damian Collins. In Season 3, we're answering the questions investors are really asking.
Just like a house, a portfolio should be built based on clear and measured plans.
Guided by our listeners, this season combines expert analysis.
Numbers will tell a story if you know how to read them.
With real case studies.
We wanted to buy something that was different, not just your house on a big block.
To deliver practical insight into property investing.
Data doesn't replace judgment, it informs it.
What got you here won't get you there.
From sustainable portfolio growth and diversification to understanding property data and busting financial myths.
Many people don't understand that scaling will only work when the foundations are right.
We'll provide a clear roadmap to building long-term income through property. Now, when it comes to property investing, the journey is really about building first and then scaling your portfolio over time to create equity, income, and long-term wealth. But there's a common assumption that to do that, you need a high income or a significant net worth to begin with, and that's not always the case. More often, it comes down to getting started, building a strong foundation, making smart decisions, and having the right team around you to support that growth in a sustainable way. So today, we're bringing that to life through a real client story. We're joined by Momentum Wealth clients Patricia and Ben Degafe, who have more than doubled the size and value of their portfolio of properties in just 2 years. Patricia and Ben, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And you're a couple who've been very successful in property investment. That's what we want to talk about today. And a lot of people think to be a successful property investor, you have to be rich or on a really super high income. And that's not true. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. So starting with the background, Patricia, tell us what you do for work.
Yeah, so my name is Patricia and I'm a nurse by profession. And I also do part-time interpreting and translating. So, background is I was born in Nairobi, that is in East Africa, that's Kenya. And growing up, of course, many siblings, mom, dad passed away a while back, but it's always been a family of, work hard and see the fruits of your labor, So it's my mom who has definitely, been a person who has really motivated us as a couple, as a family, of what property can do for you in the future. And the best thing is if your money can work for you when you're planning your retirement or even in your working days, she's the person who has really stood by us and just really been a good example of what money can do for you.
A good story for all investors, have someone there who you've seen, whether it's a family or someone else who's been successful. So that's great, Patricia. Now, Ben, tell us a bit about what you do for work.
So my name is Ben, and I'm a boilermaker welder by trade, and I work at WestTrack at Perth Airport. So my background is I'm from Ethiopia. My mum, she migrated to Australia when I was 14, and she sponsored me over. Yeah.
So both migrants, fantastic story to come to Australia and have such great success. Now let's get into where you started. So you both got careers, obviously I know you got 2 kids together, and nursing and boilermaking, but you bought your first home, I believe, in Caversham. So how long ago was that? That's a suburb of Perth, so how long ago was that?
So Caversham, we bought that in 2012, and we just got married in 2012, and then we thought we need somewhere to start. So we went ahead and bought that property. We actually built property.
For those viewers who don't know, Perth market from about 2012 to 2020 basically went nowhere. In fact, almost went backwards in some cases. So you probably didn't get a huge amount of capital growth off that one. Did you pay off a lot of the debt or during that time, or was it, how did you get some more equity in that property?
We just kept working, where we paid off some of the, we paid our mortgage as we go. While we're making family, we traveled a little bit, and then we settled down, had kids, and yeah.
Then after that, in the journey, you bought an investment property in another Perth suburb called Balga. Tell me about that investment property.
So Balga's property was our first step into the property market, and that was in 2015. That's when we had our first daughter, and it's been 10 years since we bought that property. And
for those viewers who don't know, Balga was a bit of a mixed suburb. It's sort of changed over the years, but it had a reputation as being pretty rough, didn't it? And but that has changed over time. It's close to the city, 12, 14 k's away. And so you had your home, you had your investment property, and then what triggered you to decide, firstly, to think about buying another investment property?
So we wanted to scale up and get into more investment portfolios, and that's when we came to Momentum Wealth. We looked for a while, so it's been 13 years since our first property to the next property. So that's when we heard on the radio Momentum Wealth, and then I went home and did a bit of background research and did a bit of search reviews and such, and we wanted someone to give us advice and a bit of guidance and set our goals ahead. And then we contacted Momentum Wealth.
So at that stage in 2023, you were thinking of buying an investment property, and you had a couple of kids who would have been quite young then. Were you both on the same page, Patricia? Were you both keen to look at buying another investment property?
Yeah, so one thing about me is when Mr. Biniam says anything about, we are gonna, this is what we'd like to plan to get another property investment, I'd always be left like, what, that's a good idea. So being very supportive, and then he can look at the finances and think, this is what we need to do. If I need to work extra more hours, and just chip in here and there where we can, and just set a goal and go for it.
You came to Momentum Wealth. What were you particularly looking for when you came and saw Momentum Wealth?
A place whereby they do everything for you, you know what I mean? Because in this country, parents are always busy, everyone is always busy looking for, what are we going to fend for our family? So we wanted people who are in the business, they are in the know, they know what they're doing, and they can just do everything for us, you know what I mean? Because it would be hard to say on Saturday we're going to go look at this house, you know what I mean? Now Saturday is when we've got all the activities for the kids. So we were happy with Momentum Wealth because it was one-stop shop, you know what I mean? And they do everything. They're the experts. Let's just trust and believe in them,
Yeah, that's good. And Ben, anything else you were looking for when you were looking for someone to help you on that property journey?
We sat down in a room and we were going through all the, why we should go with Momentum Wealth. And one thing stuck up for me was that the due diligence steps and all the softwares they use to look at background checks about properties and where the properties are growing, where all the blue chip properties were and stuff. And that really stuck up for me. And and the strategies they set up for us was really good.
Yep, okay. And so you came in, and then the first thing generally would have been your finances. So were you surprised at your borrowing capacity? Did you think you were able to buy an investment property?
Yeah, we were surprised that we could afford to go for another property, and it was all affordable, and they can help us restructure all the loans where they needed to be. And we're quite happy.
So, and that's critical. That's one thing. It's important to get your finances sorted before you get into the property market, and getting them structured right is really, really critical. So, so you went through that finance process, and then you obviously had a budget for an investment property. Now, Patricia, what were you particularly? Obviously, you're looking for the advice about what's a good property, but is there anything else, particularly in a rental property, you were looking for?
What we're going to get out of it, like the long-term advantage of having another property investment, a place whereby we're going to get a good income out of it, and it's something that you can see the advantage of having. And also, if we look after our property, we're going to get good tenants, good growth, and
So the first property out there in the market, Momentum Wealth, one of the buyers agents, went out and looked for properties, and at that time you were buying, the market was pretty strong, and there was sometimes multiple offers on many properties. And what particularly, so you ended up buying a unit in a suburb fairly close to Perth, about 7 or 8K or thereabouts out of the city. What was the attraction about that one, Ben? What did you like about that one?
Very close to the city. It was very close to the beach, and also the rental income was good, and we saw growth in that. It didn't take very long for it to double in price. And that was very interesting.
If you don't mind, I'll share some of the figures. You paid $366,000 for it. and about 12 months later, it was valued at $620,000. So I wish property did that every year. Sadly, it doesn't. But you certainly obviously picked a property that, and the team at Momentum Wealth obviously picked a property that was quite undervalued, and to grow and give you an extra, what's that, 260 odd thousand equity in 12 months. You must have been pretty happy with that.
Very happy, yes, very happy.
What was then the thought after that, right? So you got one, you obviously still had your home, you still had your first investment property, got the second one now, and obviously starting to create some really good equity. What was, when did you decide, let's have another go again?
I think, a year.
So you came back to the team, and but importantly, what did you do with your finances? What did they help you do before you went and bought that third investment property?
So we were able to use our equities for deposit to get that third investment property. And then we just approached Karen. We said, let's go for it, and we'll do it. And then she was able to help us out with looking for the property. And doing all the research behind the scenes. We're actually on holiday when we got the second property. So on the third property, it was easy.
It was easy. So just go back to the loans. And I think that's critical for people listening, is particularly when you start to get a few investment properties, getting the structuring right. And I assume, did you have different lenders, or was it all a similar lender? How did they end up structuring it for you?
So our mortgage was with Westpac. At first, so Brain suggested that we go with Bankwest. Bankwest had better offers, and then they were able to put in the house that relates to the mortgage to that mortgage. So they're all individual instead of they're all
cross-securitized. Yeah, and that's a really critical part then. So each loan is attached to the individual property that you've got, rather than all cross-collateralized, and people don't realise that. If you ever go back to do another loan and you've all cross-collateralized, or you want to sell one, it's a whole rigorous process. You've got to get them all revalued again. So, and that's why they set it up that way. So we got the finance sorted. What did the team find for you, and what did you particularly like about that next investment property?
Yeah, so with the next one, I was really excited about the location as well, and how it's just like, I think maybe 500 meters away from the beach or something, and it was really good to know that we could actually get it, you know what I mean? So we just trusted the process yet again, because we've, gone through Momentum Wealth once before, and same people, same team, and it was really good to just trust the process, and like we said, most of the times we would never have time to go looking or, having a good idea of what the house looks like, but I think just trusting the process and going through with it.
And people. So at that time, were you working part-time or full-time as a nurse?
I would say full-time because of the hours that are done. And then the good thing about nursing, you can pick up a couple of casual shifts here and there, especially when you know this is what you want in life, you know what I mean? So that's what I'd say.
At the time, a lot of people again think, well, you have to be rich to carry all that negative cash flow, and because most investment properties start negative, your debt and interest is more than the rental income that you get. So how did you manage that? So from a family point of view, was it a big hit, or were you able to manage that and still have a decent life?
I think we were able to manage it and have a decent life, and then also I would say that just doing something extra, it really counts. The penalties over the weekend, especially we choose a night shift, that just is calculated so well.
It was probably worth it, since you got an equity of 260,000 in the first year. Made it well worth it, didn't it? So I think it's a good, important message. Look, any property investment, there's got to be some sacrifice. You either, you got negative cash flow, so you either got to maybe work a little bit more and get a bit more income, or maybe just trim that lifestyle a bit. But you don't have to eat baked beans every night, do you? You can still live a decent life. No. So let's get on to the Scarborough property. And the unit itself, was it in a relatively small complex, or was it in a much bigger complex of apartments?
I think it was a small complex.
Small complex with a large land.
And that's an important thing, that units can make good investments, but you want to focus on, that's what Momentum Wealth does, you want to focus on that underlying land value. And so if you're in a complex of 100 and that's all shiny and new, your land value component is generally quite low. But when you're buying an older style apartment on a big size block, the implied land value, even though you don't have any private land value, your implied land value is quite high. So that's why they would have targeted that one for you. And that purchase was, from what I understand, was off market, so it wasn't even available on the market, was it?
Yes, it was off market, and great value.
And again, that's a great thing that buyers agents have access to, being that they buy so many properties. You think, why would people do off market? Well, there's good reasons for it. They might have a tenant in there, and if you've got a tenant in there, it might be hard to get viewings, and a lot of home buyers don't want to look at a property that's got 9 months on the rental. Some people just don't want to spend the money in advertising. So if you can get access to off-market properties, doesn't mean they're all good. Sometimes they're overpriced and they're not good properties, but getting access to those off-market properties is a great thing, and gives you more choice, doesn't it? So tell us about the rental journey, the investment properties you've got, and how have rents moved over that? Obviously, the first property's been held for a long time. The other two are more recent, but tell us about the rent growth you've seen over that time.
So the first property at Balga was good price when we got in the market, but then the market had a downturn, and it was down for so many years up until we started now with Momentum, with the second property, third property. The growth has been consistent, and even now Balga's picked up as well. So it's really almost doubling at the moment.
And one thing we know as investors, you can't control interest rates. They're going to go up and down through that investment journey. But generally over time, the rental growth will certainly be decent, maybe 3, 5, 6% a year, some years more, some years less. And that helps you hold those investment properties, doesn't it? As you see that rent growth coming, that's no doubt, I'm assuming, made it easier for you to have less cash flow going out the door.
Exactly. If the rental growth wasn't there, it would have been out of pocket.
So I think the message is really is when you get into the market, you've got to have that long-term view. You're going to have ups and downs. They're not going to go up that much quickly. You got in at a great time, but just sticking through your long-term plans. So guys, you're now sitting on a portfolio worth somewhere near $3 million, which something you should be very proud of. And did you ever think that you were going to have a portfolio of investment properties that size?
No, we didn't. But we've always wanted to be there. I think we still want to grow, but we never really expected in this short term that we could grow that much.
So any plans for the next one?
Yeah, we've already asked questions.
Harassing the broker, can I get another one?
Yeah, we already asked questions, and maybe next year we'll look at again,
There's always lessons learned on the way. Ben, tell us what you would do, if anything, that you would do differently if you started that journey again.
Yeah, so I would always say, like even with the Balga property, I wish we had someone to guide us to get through that property, because we would have been larger now, it would have been better. I feel like we made a mistake to do that on our own. Because we were eager to get into the business, we were eager to get into the property market, but it's worked out all right now. But I would have been happier we had a bit of guidance along the way.
Patricia, anything you'd like to add?
Yes. So what I would love to say is the first time you're getting into property, you don't know what you're looking out for, but just being happy and grateful that we got our foot forward. I know sometimes we always wish that with that property we actually got bigger land, because that's what our dream was, to get a big land, have A, B, C, D houses, on the lot. But with that one, we had the equity, so we didn't lose out on anything. So sometimes in life, you want to cry over spilled milk, but you live and learn, And now with the second and third, we did not make any mistakes. And what happened? Look at the growth.
What do your friends and family think about the great success you've had in investing in property?
So one person for sure is my mom. Like, she's so proud of us, and our families are very proud of us. We've worked hard, and we just feel it's a good feeling.
Well, congratulations to you both, Patricia and Ben. A great story, migrants to Australia, and worked hard and and made some sacrifices, and you built a great investment portfolio. So thanks for being here. What today really shows is that building a successful property portfolio isn't reserved for high-income earners. It starts with making a decision to begin and building it from there. Scaling sustainably will look different for everyone, but the key is having a strategy that works for you and your lifestyle, your long-term goals, and your property plans. And as you've heard today, with the right structure and the right team behind you, outcomes that once felt out of reach can become very achievable, often sooner than you think. Thanks for tuning in. If you're enjoying the podcast, please take a moment to rate us to help others discover the show. Please note that the information shared on Property Investing Roadmap is general in nature and doesn't take into account your individual circumstances. The information is for educational purposes only and should not be relied on for investment or financial decisions. Always seek professional advice before deciding whether to invest. Today's guests are representatives of Momentum Wealth Property Advisory Proprietary Limited, licensed real estate and business agent in WA, RA 82976.